You're not investing in freedom. You're reacting to the fear of fading. Behind every final offer and limited access lies a truth no one markets. They're not selling assets. They're selling your own anxiety back to you, gift-wrapped in urgency. Picture a high-end auction hall, where the item up for bid is your attention span. The auctioneer doesn't shout numbers. He whispers your insecurities in the exact tone that bypasses your logic. The crowd raises paddles made of nervous fingers, each competing not for value, but for relief. Because what they're really trying to buy isn't a course, or coin, or insider tip. It's the silence that comes after the transaction. That momentary breath that says, "I didn't miss it this time. You weren't born like this. You were shaped." From childhood, the rules were clear. Act fast, be first, raise your hand before you're sure. School rewarded speed, not depth. Work praised availability, not wisdom. Culture glorified the hustle. And now, with your phone buzzing at 3 a.m., your nervous system responds like it always has, not with discernment, but with urgency. Every flash sale, every pitch, every deadline is an echo of that original programming. React now or be forgotten. And in that split-second reaction, the part of you that could have said no is silenced again. I know this pattern because I lived it. I said yes to every digital guru, every final call, every chance to feel ahead. I wasn't investing, I was compensating. I didn't want wealth, I wanted to stop feeling behind. And every time I hit confirm, I wasn't acting from strategy. I was trying to escape a feeling I didn't have language for yet. The quiet ache of being unseen. It took losing time, money, and parts of myself to realize that the urgency wasn't real. But the part of me that kept falling for it was. That part needed something deeper than a return. It needed to be heard. You've been taught to fear stillness more than failure. Since you were a child, you were trained to respond, not reflect. The child who hesitated missed the prize. The one who paused was called lazy. You didn't just learn that being fast was good, you internalized that being slow was dangerous, and that belief didn't stay in the classroom. It followed you into adulthood where it got a new name, productivity. But beneath every high-performer identity is a nervous system addicted to urgency. You think you're deciding. You're actually completing a loop started decades ago, a loop where your worth is proven only by how quickly you react. The financial world understood this better than anyone. They didn't create scarcity, they refined it. They studied your click patterns, your scroll behavior, your purchase history. Then they built an experience around your reflexes. Not to educate you, to engage your fear. That fear, of being late, of missing out, of being irrelevant, is the most monetizable part of your psychology. You're not just the customer, you're the commodity. Your panic has a profit margin. And every tool you've been given, countdown timers, email blasts, urgent webinars, exists not to inform, but to stimulate. You think you're gaining access. You're actually being studied. Even when you know it's happening, it's hard to stop. Because the addiction isn't to the product, it's to the spike. The spike of possibility, of being in the loop, of catching the train just in time. That micro hit of relevance has become your drug. You justify it with language like calculated risk and first mover advantage, but underneath the jargon is a wound. The wound of not wanting to be forgotten. And as long as that wound stays unhealed, the system doesn't need to sell anything. You'll keep buying on your own. You think you're being strategic, but it's the ego in costume pulling the strings. The one that wears data like armor, that quotes economic cycles like scripture, that shares charts as proof of control. But if you stripped it all away, the apps, the forecast, the performance, what's left is a face you rarely look at. The child who once raised their hand for attention, not because they had the answer, but because they didn't want to be invisible. That child grew up. And now, every investment made in haste, every race to a launch, every panicked entry into a volatile market. It's not logic. It's an emotional reflex dressed as insight. And the most dangerous part? You actually believe it's you. You don't make decisions. You perform them. You slip into the role of the investor like an actor stepping on stage. The lines are rehearsed, the posture is strong. But beneath it, there's an inner tremor, a fear of not being seen as competent, not being respected, not being enough. Jung called it the shadow, the part of ourselves we exile, only to have it rule us from the dark. Your shadow doesn't want wealth. It wants redemption. Redemption from the times you were ignored, overlooked, underestimated. And now you chase numbers not to grow, but to settle old scores. The result is fragmentation. Each decision tears you slightly apart. You gain profit but lose peace. You acquire knowledge but sacrifice self-trust. You surround yourself with graphs, mentors, and milestones. But when it's quiet, when no one's watching, you feel hollow. Because deep down you know this isn't mastery, it's mimicry. You're not building an empire, you're building a mask. And until you face what's behind it, no amount of return will ever feel like enough. Because you're not investing to move forward. You're investing to escape who you've been. You were promised autonomy. What you got was acceleration. The courses, the masterminds, the dashboards, and they gave you motion, not meaning. You thought the freedom you craved could be earned through action, that if you moved fast enough, bought early enough, positioned right enough, you'd finally exhale. But you didn't exhale. You sped up. You learned to treat stillness like weakness. And now you can't sit in silence without feeling like you're dying. That's not financial intelligence, that's behavioral dependence. You don't invest out of clarity. You invest to avoid the discomfort of pausing. Modern finance doesn't sell value. It sells momentum. It doesn't ask you to understand, it asks you to react. Scarcity isn't a reflection of truth. It's a technique. And it's not just clever. It's ritualistic. The countdowns, the exclusives, the early bird access, they're not features. They're spells. They cast urgency onto your nervous system until you move without knowing why. You think you're making a decision, but you're reciting a script. The same one every consumer of speed is fed. The system doesn't want you to think, it wants you to click, and you do. Because you've mistaken movement for progress, confusion for opportunity, and rush for relevance. But the truth is colder. The system never needed your success. It only needed your participation. It needed your attention, your reactions, your engagement metrics. That's what it monetizes. You don't need to win the game, you just need to keep playing. And as long as you believe that urgency equals importance, you will. Until one day the silence becomes louder than the sales pitch. And in that silence you realize you weren't free. You were just fast. It doesn't start with a crash. It begins in whispers. When you're alone at your desk, cursor blinking, fingers hovering over the next Enroll Now button. You've done this 100 times before. But something feels different this time. Not because the offer is worse, it's not. It's polished, persuasive, even familiar. It's you who's changed. There's a heaviness in your chest that has nothing to do with doubt and everything to do with exhaustion. You're tired of reacting, tired of being pulled, pushed, prodded into action by invisible strings made of scarcity, speed, and shame. This isn't decision fatigue. It's a soul remembering itself. For the first time in years, you don't click. You sit. You breathe. You let the window stay open, not as a portal to another promise, but as proof that not everything demands a response. And in that micro moment of stillness, something breaks. Not in fear, but in liberation. You see the game. You see how urgency was never about helping you grow. It was about keeping you spinning. Every course, every countdown, every funnel, all designed to keep you too busy to ask the real question. Who benefits when I'm this afraid to pause? The answer stings, but it also heals. Because now you see, every time you said yes out of fear, you were abandoning the very self you were trying to empower. This is where the rebuild begins, not with a new tool or tactic, but with the dismantling of old agreements. You no longer consent to urgency as your compass. You no longer measure progress by how fast you move. You no longer seek approval dressed as ROI. What you seek now is coherence, a state where your actions align with your inner rhythm, not someone else's alarm. Real sovereignty doesn't shout, it listens. And what it hears is the steady drumbeat of your own enoughness. You are never late. You are only being rushed. The silence isn't empty. It's honest. For the first time, your screen is dark. Your inbox is closed and your mind is still enough to feel the weight of everything you ran from. No more strategies, no more expert takes, no more simulated pressure. Just you, sitting inside the spaciousness of a moment that doesn't ask you to perform. You're not missing out. You're re-entering. And the first thing you notice is how long it's been since you made a decision without adrenaline in your veins. You've called it focus. You've called it ambition. But now, stripped of noise, you call it what it is. Addiction. Not to growth, to urgency itself. You walk through the echo chamber of your past choices, each made with speed, each disguised as empowerment. But now they look different. Not shameful, but sacred. Markers of a journey where you had to lose yourself in speed to even begin to understand stillness. You don't blame the systems anymore. They did what they were built to do. But you are no longer programmable. And that changes everything. Because in this silence, you hear something stronger than any pitch. Your own voice, uncoached, unsold, unafraid. Not asking what's next, asking what's real. While the screen flashes its last chance glow, something within you quietly begs for stillness. It's not the deal you lack, it's the ground beneath your feet. You were never meant to live on someone else's countdown. The buy now button is only the surface. Underneath is a system that feeds on your fear of missing out, of not being enough, of being left behind. But you don't have to obey anymore. The map of occult reprogramming doesn't offer steps. It offers a mirror, so you can finally see who's really making your decisions. And maybe for the first time, choose differently. You won't go back. Not because you can't, because you won't fit. You outgrew urgency like a skin that cracked at the seams. What you wear now is simplicity. What you chase now is nothing. Because you no longer chase, you receive. Not courses, not coins, not applause. You receive the peace that only arrives when you stop trying to buy it. Comment below. Urgency is no longer my identity. Share this with someone still trapped in the cycle of emotional scarcity. And if you're ready to break the spell, subscribe now. Urgency is dead. Now, only the essential survives.